The well-trained panzer divisions found Russia to be ideal tank country. But the logistics of maneuvering large formations across the great distances of the Russian plains meant crews were often confined to their tanks for long periods, sometimes even days.
Our tank wasn't only a combat weapon, accommodation and means of transport. It was our home, and accordingly the tank was maintained and cared for.
Tiger crews especially benefited from the tank's large interior.
In the Tiger, the driver and radio operator in particular had a lot of space for themselves. There were comfortable seats, and I was able to stretch out if I wanted to sleep. The driver could do the same. Other tanks just couldn't compare.
When in action, Tigers had the advantage of being able to engage and destroy enemy tanks like the T-34 at long range.
We could now hit targets from a distance we had only dreamt of before. The tank commander would announce the target, and the gunner would choose for himself when to open fire. Only bad commanders interfered with the gunner until he actually opened fire.
An encounter with a Tiger on the battlefield was a daunting prospect for the Russian T-34 crews.
You did get a little shiver when you met a Tiger tank. Not only because it was so powerful, but because we were young, and this tank was frightening. It was more powerful than the T-34. Our 76mm guns could only fire at a distance of 500 meters. But a Tiger could shoot from a distance of 1 kilometer without missing.
Even if the T-34s got close enough, the Tiger's armor proved almost invincible.
In my first battle in a Tiger, we were exposed on the Russian steppe and took so many hits, but to no effect. I developed such a sense of security at the time and thought, with this vehicle, nothing can happen to me at all.
We felt quite safe in our tank, although it wasn't a life insurance. I was wounded 5 times despite the Tiger. But we could withstand an attack much better now. We had tanks that were hit 30 times by Russian guns and still in working order.
In one 6-hour engagement, a Tiger was hit 227 times. Despite having its wheels, tracks, and transmission damaged, it managed to crawl a further 40 miles across country. Tigers worked in conjunction with infantry and artillery, each element supporting the other. Panzer Grenadier machine gun teams were deployed on the flanks, up to 50 yards from the tank in case of enemy infantry attacks. Tiger commanders had excellent radio communications with their crews.
I know from my own experience that you never looked out with the headphones on both ears, but always kept one ear free. If you don't hear what's happening outside, then you are exposed to enemy attack without being able to react appropriately. It is most important for the commander to have an overview of the battlefield.
With a well-trained crew, the Tiger commander concentrated on searching for targets, always preferring to keep his hatch open.
I had to have my head outside of the turret so that I could oversee everything. If there was an anti-tank gun firing, you could then sense what was going on. If the hatch was closed, then you would only have a limited view.
Tiger ace Otto Carius, seen here wearing the Knight's Cross for bravery, is credited with destroying over 100 Allied tanks. A dangerous yet essential tactic for a commander was to make a reconnaissance on foot. From ground level, he would gain a more realistic picture of where tactically to place the heavy Tiger. On one occasion, Carius, observing enemy tanks from a Panzer Grenadier trench, was caught in a surprise infantry assault.
The Russian machine gun fire was very heavy, and I was shot through the thigh, and I was unable to run back through the trench.
Carius sent his orderly back for help as the Russian infantry reached his trench.
I got a bullet in my arm and another through my back. I could hear my own tanks coming. But the Russian officer was nervous. He could see I was a highly decorated commander and saw my maps and wanted to take me alive. But he realized it was too late for that and shot me again, which went through my neck. And then my tanks arrived.
Although Otto Carius sustained 5 serious wounds, he recovered and returned to the battlefront 9 months later. The SS Panzer divisions were also equipped with Tiger tanks. Although not strictly part of the army, the Waffen SS were elite troops, politically indoctrinated into the Nazi cause. Their reputation for bravery, as well as brutality, made the SS Panzer regiments among the most feared of all German troops. In June 1944, 2 battle-hardened SS Panzer divisions, armed with Tiger tanks, were ordered from the Russian front to France, where the long-awaited Second Front had begun. Their mission: to destroy the Anglo-American forces in Normandy. In June 1944, 2 Panzer divisions armed with the mighty Tiger tank were dispatched to Normandy to fight off the Allied Second Front. For months, the Germans had been expecting an invasion of France, but they did not know exactly when and where it would come. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, commander of the anti-invasion forces, had strengthened the coastal defenses. But the use of the Panzer divisions armed with the superior Tiger tank had been a point of contention between the top commanders. Field Marshal von Rundstedt, the supreme commander in the West, had clearly laid down the role of the Panzer divisions in the defense of France. The main force would be kept well back from the coast and used to plug any gaps once the exact location of the invasion was known. But Rommel's ideas were different. He argued the panzers must be kept as near to the beaches as possible, so an Allied landing could be repulsed immediately. Hitler intervened in the argument and reserved the right to deploy the panzers himself. Unfortunately for Rommel, the panzers were not used to